So, welcome everybody to Lean Agile Manchester. Got a big grin on my face because it's such an amazing location for this. It's definitely, of course, Manchester. Yeah, absolutely. Now, first of all, I need to just thank the sponsors, because without the sponsors, it wouldn't be possible for us to really get together in this kind of format with the level of support that we get from them. So in alphabetical order, Astrolab, CDL, Equal Experts, Hive Mind Network, myself, Red Eye and Valtech. Now, what I'd like to do, we always offer our sponsors just a couple of minutes each just to say a few words. So, first of all, I'd like to start with Valtech, if that's okay. So I know it's Phil, and then we'll go through the others.
Cheers. Hello, everyone. I'm Phil. I'm the Managing Director for Valtech in the UK. This is quite a momentous moment for everyone in Valtech, particularly in the north, because we've spent 15 years of our life over the Irwell River in Salford. Actually, so this is kind of like our homecoming to Manchester. This amazing city, as Ian said. And 40 years ago, actually, those of you who know your kind of Manchester culture, it's exactly 40 years ago. There was a gig at just over the road at the Free Trade Hall that the Sex Pistols went to, and that was the meeting of Ian Curtis and Hookie and Bernie Sumner from New Order, and that was very much what became the start of a seminal moment for Manchester culture. So there was only 30 people at that gig, actually, but if you speak to everyone over 50 in Manchester, they kind of claim to have been there. So it's kind of like Manchester's I was there moment. So this is kind of like, I think, it might not be as seminal a moment for the Lean Agile community, but this could be your I was there moment at Valtech's first event, really. I just need to let people know there's a couple of snags with any kind of new building. There is a couple of snags. If you use the toilets, the male toilets, it looks like it's not finished. I think the plumber's done a runner or something. We need to get it back, but they do actually work. They don't be put off. The taps work. I think if anyone needs to use a toilet without steps or disabled facilities, that's on the second floor. But despite those snags, we do have some Valtech's own brewed beer that we brewed before the Christmas that we'd like you all to try as well. Accept that as our welcome gift. I'd like to tell you a bit about Valtech, really. Valtech we strongly believe that the organisations of the future that are going to be successful are those that aren't organised in kind of traditional hierarchies or kind of silos, but organisations that kind of based around fairly unstructured networks, but of collaborations of capabilities of strategists and creatives and designers and software engineers and data scientists all working together in a collaborative and evolutionary way. And whilst we deliver some amazing products and services and experience for our clients, I think the ones we're proud about are the ones that we help to transform the way that they work to kind of the modern and the new way of working, really. And I think it's an amazing time for the industry that we're in, because everyone does want to work in that way, and there's a great demand for it. It's a great time to work at Valtech as well. So anyone who wants to find it a bit more, come and drag. I'll pull you apart a Valtech beer or a glass of wine and come and talk to me a bit more about it. But for everyone, remember, you were there.
Right. Well, do you want to go next, Michael?
Yeah, sure. So I won't take that long. CDL, well, we're here because we believe in all that stuff as well. We've got quite a journey to go on. We'd love feeding back to this community, sponsoring it. There's some sort of stuff around there if you're interested. I've got a couple of critical pen drives with legend job descriptions on, because we're hiring like everybody else. Loving the beer.
And finally, Phil from Red Eye, or Paul. Sorry.
Hi everyone. I'm Paul Harvey from Red Eye. My role is actually project manager, and dare I say, Scrum Master in the same sentence. Don't shoot me. Although the company's been running for 18 years now, we're still on the Agile journey. We've been running it for about 2.5 years now, and we've been attending these events for last year, and we thought it was our time to put something back into the community hence the reason why we're now one of the sponsors of it. So if anybody's interested in what we do, we're digital marketeers, and we're some of the people which lead the likes of Avis, Monic, Hotel Choc. If you get any emails from them, the likelihood is they come via us to you, and we market directly to individuals. So we segment data and deal with big data in order that you get the right message at the right time. Okay, so yeah, thank you, Ian, and thank you for the venue as well.
So we're going to bring on Amy, our main person for tonight. So is everybody all right standing up there? Does anyone want to come around and sit? There's plenty of seats down here. Anyone wants to? Right, so one more announcement. I've created another Lean Agile Warrington. So you can guess it's about Lean and Agile, and it's based in Warrington. Simply because I know there's a number of people who do travel in on a Wednesday night from that kind of neck of the woods and make it around. So it's really just to address some demand that's over there. So it's going to become a sister group to this one. So we'll look out for more news on that one. So without further ado, hand over to Amy Lynch. I used to work with Amy at ThoughtWorks, and so I'm looking for a bit of a treat. Cheers, guys.
Right, I'm going to put this here because I don't think it's talk about my laptop. So yeah, thank you for the intro, and sorry it's taken me so long. Ian asked me ages ago to come and talk at this event, and I was like, yeah, sure. And I just kind of finally plucked up the courage in October, and so now I'm here. So thank you all for having me. Thank you for the venue. Thank you for the sponsors. So my name's Amy Lynch. As Ian mentioned, I work for ThoughtWorks. You can find me at Amy_Lynch on Twitter if you are that way inclined. For anyone here that doesn't know ThoughtWorks, we have an office based in Manchester. We're a global software development consultancy. We are big on Agile and loads of other fun stuff. You may well have heard of Martin Fowler. That's one of the top reasons that people have heard of ThoughtWorks, which is a bit weird. So if anyone needs to know anything about ThoughtWorks afterwards, then please do give me a shout. But really what I wanted to do today was talk to you about diversity. Caveat being that my focus has been predominantly on gender diversity. Whilst I appreciate there are lots more measures and dimensions of diversity, you'll find that I'll probably go off into the kind of women in technology part of this, because it's something that I've been focusing quite a lot on over recent years. So a lot of what I'm probably going to talk about today is, I'd say there's a fair amount of crossover from other groups. But yeah, a lot of my talk will be around women in tech, so please do bear that in mind. I'll probably go on for more. So I wanted to start with just telling you a little bit about me. So I have been working with, indirectly and directly with technology teams for probably about 10 years now. So my background is historically in recruitment. I've done a bit of sales and stuff as well. And more recently, I'm doing more, it's now called recruitment marketing. But essentially what that is it's events, it's the content piece, it's how we leverage social media, and most importantly, it's how we position ThoughtWorks as a company or an employer of choice for the people that we want to hire. I know from speaking to a few people in the room before starting this that this is something that's quite high on people's agenda, is how do we improve the diversity in our businesses, in technology, that sort of thing. So hopefully I'll be able to share with you some of my insights based on my experience, some of the things that I've seen in the industry, some of the things that I've learned. So what I wanted to start with was a few things that I hear loads. When I'm talking about where are all the women, diversity, blah, 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 these are some of the things that happen all the time. We shouldn't talk about quotas. That's a very British thing. We shouldn't talk about quotas. That's not good. I get that. But also I think it's really important for anybody, any organisation does need to measure success in some sort of way. So there's been, I think it was back in 2014 now, a few organisations, Pinterest, Apple, I think Google did it, Facebook and Twitter, kind of published their diversity stats for the first time, which is quite a big thing, and they were absolutely abysmal, but it's the starting point. So they measured that, and then they can work on it. So I think, there's a lot of sensitivity around the word quotas and what that means, but actually, is it a bad thing if it helps us to measure progress and helps us to know where we're at and where we need to get to? Isn't this positive discrimination? This is not positive discrimination, because we are not giving somebody a job based on the gender or the colour of their skin or any other criteria. This is about making sure that instead of interviewing people from the same pool, of the same candidate pool, we want to make sure that there's actually people from lots of different groups there, so that we can interview a broad pool of people and make sure that we're hiring the best person for that job. So it's not positive discrimination. For me, it's positive change, and there's a big difference. There just aren't that many women out there. Right, 50% of society are female. I'll move on to my next slide in a bit. 17% of technology jobs are occupied by women at the moment, whereas 50% of society are female. There is clearly a bit of a difference there, but I can assure you, there are women there. You just need to know how to engage with women and how to find women. The same with other people from other diverse groups. Maybe they don't want to come to a tech conference where there's beer and pizza. I don't know. Maybe they take longer. There was some research done in the not too distant past about actually how many times does a female candidate need to be persuaded to apply for a job. So there's other research around if a female if a woman reads an advert and doesn't tick every single box on that advert, rock star and 10 years experience and rah, they'll be like, oh no, I've only got 7 years of experience, so I'm not going to get the job. So it's just things like this. There are women out there, but let's just think about how the subtle nuances that will affect whether or not they should be signed. I don't agree with tokenism. Well, that's good, because neither do I. Like I said before with positive discrimination, this is not about hiring people because they will make up some diversity in business. Not at all. This is about making sure that we've got representation across various different groups so that we can make sure that we are getting the best team to deliver whatever it is that we need to deliver. Oh. And yeah, we didn't have any female applications. Again, please forgive me, because obviously my recruitment background, this is a lot about recruitment, so bear with me. I understand that a lot of businesses might not have internal recruiters that can spend a lot of time in kind of nurturing relationships with external user groups and stuff like this, but actually, you've got to think, you can't just whack an advert out these days and hope for the best and just see who applies and then go, yeah, they're great, fantastic. We need to be more sophisticated about how we're growing our businesses and how we're growing our teams. Now that's out of the way, those excuses. We've had none of those. So this, in 2014, when a lot of people published their gender diversity information, this is roughly what it was looking like. So about 17% of tech jobs in the UK are occupied by women, 15% at Facebook, 20% at Apple, 10% at Twitter, 15% at Yahoo, etc., etc. I'm really pleased that ThoughtWorks is kind of bucking that trend a little bit. So at the moment, we have 34% of our professional services, and so that's anyone from user experience to project management, developers, DevOps, you name it. 34% of our professional services, and that's globally, I think. Yeah, we're doing pretty well, but this just doesn't happen overnight. This doesn't happen because you just whack an advert on LinkedIn. It's just not going to happen. So what I want to talk about is some things that you might be able to bear in mind that just might kind of challenge your way of thinking and help you on this journey. So this, I hope that's clear enough. I'll stand back a bit so people can see it. This is something that a colleague of mine, her name's Rachel Laycock, and she joined ThoughtWorks as a developer years and years ago. She's now the technical principal for our New York office. So she's done incredibly well in her journey through leadership and all of that sort of stuff. And she put this together, which I thought was really interesting, based on her experience. And what she's done is she's kind of plotted out the career timeline, so pre-career, career, and post-career, all of the different little things. So in pre-career, you've got early childhood, junior school, high school, college, and university, and then all the points here in your career as well. And what she did was she plotted out all of the things, all of the times that she was like, this isn't for me, I don't want to do it anymore, I'm going to drop out. So that to try and raise awareness of all of the different things that will happen on someone's career. And this might not specifically be women in tech related, but this is from her experience. She wanted to kind of think about some of the things that might help her on that journey at different points.
Excuse me, Amy, would you mind just reading out a few of the examples there?
Yeah, sure. So where we've got the themes, so in early childhood, junior school, high school, college and university, things like grassroots programs, influences, stereotypes and biases will play into the decision that young people will make. So it could be things you've seen on the telly, things your friends are telling you at school, all of that sort of stuff can impact the decisions that you make, which will impact what happens later on down the road. I'm going to talk about these in a bit more detail as well as I go on, so there'll be a bit more info there. In career, so there's things that are important as a graduate, like role models. Can I see people like me who are successful in a role that I'm going for? Really important. Things like flexible working. Is there the opportunity for women to be successful when they start families or whatever it might be? Equal pay and opportunities, that's a topic that's been very hot at the moment around what are women paid the same as men for the jobs that they do, hot topic. Leadership development, how can we be helping people on their journey so that they do become the next big thing, if they want that, because they might not. Yeah, I won't go on. So yeah, this is. I thought this was quite interesting because it was a very thoughtful way of her kind of putting her thoughts down on paper. So what I want to do is I just want to kind of break down and pick out a couple of those themes and talk about some of the things that I've seen work and some of the things that we can maybe do and apply to our lives. So pre-career, spoil it. Wow. So when I was doing some research, and this either goes down reasonably well or horrifically badly, but I'm going to risk it. So when I was doing some research, there's lots and lots of things now, which is really, really good, around grassroots projects and things aimed at young girls who have an interest in STEM technology. So that's science, technology, engineering, and maths. There's quite a lot going on actually, which is a good step in itself. There's something called Little Miss Geek that has blogs and events and stuff like that. And what I found really interesting, slightly scary, but we need to know this, is they asked some young girls, what does a person in IT look like? And so this is one, I'll read it to you. He would be old and his hair would be overgrown because he doesn't care what he looks like. He cares about computers. So that's Leela, who's 10. Interesting. This one, IT equals suits equals boring. That's a year 10 student, 15 years old. So the reason I've included these is purely to demonstrate the perception, which isn't correct. It's not boring. There's a huge amount of opportunity. There's lots and lots and lots of jobs and not enough people to fill the jobs. So actually that's not true. That's just not true. But actually, this is what young people are thinking. This is specific to young girls, but actually, it could be young men as well. I won't talk about that. You can make your own mind up about necessarily. So there's some really, really good things going on at the moment. These aren't new things at all. So I'm hoping this might ring bells for some of you. So there's Code Club. How many people are familiar with Code Club? Quite a lot. I think Ian, you volunteered.
Yeah, I ran one for 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm not involved now, but
yeah. So Code Club, and I'm sure Ian can tell us more about that if we need to know. But Code Club is aimed at children aged between 8 and 10 years old, and they look for volunteers to go into schools to run classes using something called Scratch. It's relatively basic. If Ian can do it, then anyone can do it. Ouch! Yeah, and it's essentially a way to introduce young people to coding. It's not gender specific. It's like anyone can get involved. But I think you saw some really positive uptake from young girls as well, didn't you?
Yeah, it was actually dominated by girls, which I thought was really healthy.
Yeah.
Well, it might be the fact that I've got 2 daughters at that school who may have just influenced that a little bit.
Maybe.
It was good.
But I think it's 2 ladies that founded Code Club, and actually there's been I can't remember the exact figures, but there's been a lot of research into this to say actually there's a good balance between boys and girls coming along to these classes. And for me, I think one of the reasons is this is such a young age that you're able to kind of identify someone's passion for something before it gets like, oh, that's not for girls and that's not cool and you need to do drama. Like me, I did drama. But I could have done this if I thought that was something that I could have done, and that's disappointing. So Code Club is something that it's going on, it's quite established. If you want to volunteer, then just check them out online, because I think they're always looking for volunteers to give a bit of time to school. What was the investment of time like? How many weeks was it at the go?
It was term time, so it was kind of, was it 6 or 8 weeks?
Yeah, 6 or 8 weeks and like a class a week or something. So this is a great way to kind of change that perception, go in, volunteer, help support the next generation, and help capture that talent before they go, oh, it's not for me anyway, I can't do it, I'm not clever enough. There's also this Code Club Pro. So what that is, this has been set up off the back of Code Club, which was a huge success. Code Club Pro is about teaching the teachers. So again, they look for volunteers who can actually teach the teachers. So once the Code Club things are finished, the teachers have got the right skill set to be able to at least carry on that level of education. So again, something to be aware of if you're interested. But I think there's also so many other organisations. Something that Thoughts have been doing a lot with is Code First Girls. So this is aimed at university students who may or may not be studying a kind of technology related subject, but just have an interest in coding and want to learn and want to get better. So I think actually I can maybe send information via you, Ian, but I think they might be looking for volunteers for a 6-week programme in February and March. Again, it's volunteering and it's helping these people learn how, like, the basic coding. I think it's CSS and HTML for this one. So there's lots of opportunities to give something back, get involved, use your office space, volunteer your time. But I think it really needs us to sort of kind of put ourselves out there really and give something back. STEMX is another great organisation. So what they aim to do is bridge the gap between education and the workplace. So there's quite a big gap. They work with businesses to sort of bring in these young people who are very interested in careers in technology but might not know what that looks like, bring them into the office, get them interacting, get them kind of seeing what the work environment looks like. Again, this is another key point at which people would drop out of their career in technology, because they just imagine this kind of dark basement with no windows and no interaction with other human beings. It's not like that. But again, IT crowd maybe doesn't create the best impression of that. This is probably, I would say this is one of the people who's inspired me most. Her name's Amy Mather. Some of you might know her, she's quite involved in the tech community in Manchester. She's now 16 years old, and she was given the Digital Girl of Europe Award recently. I think I first met her 3 years ago when she did a talk about programming in Python at a Manchester Girl Geeks event, and literally everyone in the room was just like, this is amazing. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to do this and do this, and everyone was just like mind blown, because she was, the way that she delivered what she was talking about, she was so charismatic and everyone just loved it. And I think that's fantastic. That her backstory is she'd always been interested in technology. She went to school. She didn't like the way that IT was taught at school because it wasn't really kind of relevant. It was like spreadsheets and whatnot, and she was just like, what? Her friends also weren't really into technology either. They were much more into kind of sports and the arts and stuff. And I think there was a little bit of, I think she found it quite challenging being at school, studying IT that wasn't the IT that she'd been tinkering with in her own time, and also felt quite a lot of pressure from her friends. So Amy's mum had been involved with Manchester Girl Geeks and was like, come on, let's get involved, that'd be amazing. And she's just flourished, and that was the right environment for her at that time to really just bring her out of a shell, let her feel accepted, and let her grow ridiculously. I mean, I couldn't stand up on something of this scale and receive an award for something ridiculous. So yeah, she's probably the one person I've come across that I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So there's lots and lots and lots of stuff that we can do, grassroots projects, volunteering, education, getting people in your office. I mean, space like this is fantastic. Just offer it out to schools and these meetup groups, because they really, really need the space, and it's a great way for you to kind of promote your office as well. So next I'm going to talk about career and some of the key things that are really important to attracting diverse candidates, retaining diverse candidates. So I think I touched on this before, the importance of role models. I think this is probably one of the biggest challenges at the moment. Even though we're seeing more female role models come through, actually there's probably a huge amount more that I wonder whether or not they don't identify as role models, because it's kind of quite a sort of confident, yes, I'm a role model thing to do. So I think there's quite a big education piece that we all need to do to help support people on that journey, where they might accept that, oh, maybe I have got a story to tell, and maybe I am capable of doing that. So one of the examples that I can think of at the moment, we've got a lady who, she joined as a developer, and then she kind of worked her way up. She was an Agile coach, she tech leaded a number of projects, and she's just become, we call it an office principal in our London office, and that's someone that heads up that office and kind of makes sure everything's ticking over nicely. And that's been quite a journey for her, going kind of into that leadership thing. And I've kind of been working with her saying, this is an amazing story to tell. Like, we need to kind of make sure people can see this, because if they can see her being successful and her being a developer and working in retail and government and all this fantastic stuff, then actually it might make them get excited and think, oh, yeah, I can do this too. Whether it's in ThoughtWorks or not, doesn't really matter, as long as people can see the opportunities that are there for them. The power of the community, I think I mentioned that when I mentioned Manchester Girl Geeks before. Do not underestimate the power of the community. I mean, I know this is quite a long-standing community, which is great. You just hit 1,000 members or something as well.
Yep.
But you know, community is really, really important. And I think inclusivity in communities is also really important. However, having the Ladies Who Code group, Manchester Girl Geeks, some people just might feel more comfortable going to a diverse focused event where they're surrounded by other people like them. It can be quite daunting coming to somewhere where you're in the minority. Someone once told me a really, really good story, actually. It was a colleague down in London. She'd been invited to, I don't know, London Girl Geeks or something. And she said to her male colleague, why don't you come along and see what it's all about? And she was like, and he was like, yeah, sure, why not? And then afterwards he said, didn't like that, I was the only one there. And it's like, interesting. So I think, yeah, it's, I would like to see every meetup group, every community group completely balanced. That would be my dream. But actually we're not there yet. And I think we've got quite a long way to go. Personal development and leadership. Again, so important. We have to remember that actually, if needs be, then we might need a women's leadership program. So we've got, it's called Wild Women in Leadership Development, that is purely for female leaders. In our technical leadership development, I think 30% of people in the technical leadership development are female, which is great when you look at the 17% number and the shocking numbers from the other countries too. So I think again, this is really important to have that network of people that you can go to and you can say, I'm kind of feeling a bit like this on my project and I don't really know what to do. And it's kind of like, just ask the question. Because actually, if you have that confidence in yourself and you can ask the question, then you might uncover something that's been kind of going under the radar for quite a long time. So having this network and this development program for people from diverse groups is also really, really important. I think one of the things that I feel quite strongly about is diversity and gender diversity, because it's what I talk about most. This isn't like women's problems. This is everybody's problem. So I remember the first conference that I spoke at because the organizer said, "Oh, why don't you speak?" And I was like, "I haven't got anything to talk at a Ruby conference about. That's ridiculous." He was like, "You could talk about this, 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 this." And I was like, maybe I could. And it was him planting that seed and encouraging me that I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can do this. So everybody here has a role to play in that, to help encourage people, regardless of gender, but just be that supportive person that will help encourage and inspire and take people on that journey and hold their hand for a bit until they get a bit more comfortable with doing those sorts of things. And then you've got these happy people. In fact, this I think is ThoughtWorks University. So we do, for all of our graduates, we have this, it's ThoughtWorks University, it's in India, it's a 5-week program where all of our graduates go over to India and kind of work on the closest thing possible to a real project. So they're understanding all of the principles of Agile and test-driven development if they're a developer and all that sort of stuff. So there's a happy bunch of ThoughtWorks University people. Why should these things matter? On reflection, I feel like I should have done this at the start, because I think it's really important. There is so much research into why these things matter, and why businesses should be taking it seriously, why hiring managers should be taking it seriously. I would go as far as to say, if you're going to speak at a conference, and it doesn't have a diverse panel of people speaking, don't speak at the conference. Because I've done that myself, where I've wanted to kind of invest in things, and I've looked and I've gone, this doesn't feel right to me. There's lots and lots of things out there. So there are websites that you can go to if you want to connect with other female speakers. I've heard it so many times before where, particularly on the conference scene, people go, oh, just, no women submit anything. Well, they won't, because they're terrified. I was terrified, but also equally stubborn, and I was like, I'm going to do this. And then it got voted in, and I was like, so these are some of the reasons why it matters. Innovation and creativity. It is a fact that in diverse teams, there is more innovation and more creativity. There's more questioning, there's more challenging, there's more suggestions. It's just the way it is. Teamwork and productivity. You have more viewpoints to be able to say, actually, if I was using that website, I would probably do it a bit like this. Fantastic. If you had a team of all white men, for example, you might not have that diversity of perspective. So it's really, really, really important to make sure that all of your teams, if you're in a position of responsibility, please do bear this in mind, because it's just right. Learning and personal development, again, diversity really, really helps with this. If people work in diverse teams where they can learn from other people and have their perspectives challenged, often that's a really good thing. And recruitment, retention, reputation. We've seen it before when other organisations have published their diversity stats. There was something recently actually where I think it was Twitter, who have not done particularly well in this conversation, hired a head of diversity who was a white man, and everyone blew up and it was just like, oh, this is ridiculous. I don't know if I agree. He's probably got loads of expertise and skills and experience, but just think about what that suggests about your business, because this really, really helps with your recruitment, your retention and your reputation. But again, it's not tokenism, so don't just go and hire all the women because you think it'll make you a good company. It won't. So this is my final slide. I've gone really quickly.
It's fine. It's okay.
So here's a few things that I think that we can do. We need to change the image of IT. We need to promote ourselves. We need to open up our office space. We need to be speaking at conferences. We need to be volunteering. We need to be doing what we can to show actually what an amazing place the tech industry is. If you're doing events where you have a panel, try and make sure that there is representation across the board on that panel. I think it's a worthwhile thing to do. It's the sort of thing that I notice as a female working in the tech industry. I notice when I sit down in front of a panel of all people that I cannot relate to. So just bear that in mind.
Sorry, are there any ideas from other industries you think you could take on that?
Have you got anything in
Choose one
mind?
purpose. Just other industries, other sectors, other business models, types, just to improve that diversity.
So I would say to counter that, there's one sector that I know quite well that's got the reverse problem, and that's social services.
Yeah.
They've got very much female focus.
Yeah.
So they don't get many men that want to go in, and when the men do want to go in, they get pretty much bogged down.
Yeah.
And it's safe flip.
Primary schools, yeah, that's something that comes up quite a lot as well. Yeah, yeah. And this is the thing, I think there's challenges across all sorts of industries, and it works both ways. And I wonder whether primary schools and social services are having the same event somewhere else going, we need to get more men in.
No.
Maybe they're not, I don't know. They're not, right, okay. But I think one step at a time, if we can get more women into tech, then I might go and tackle social services next or primary schools. So yeah, get involved, educate, inspire and engage. It's really, really important. So we invest quite a lot in our graduates, and we put in an awful lot of work to try and engage with people who might be close to dropping out. There was a statistic, I think it was something around 70% of females who studied computer science, so that's like not many anyway, had dropped out of the technology industry after 2 years. So last time I spoke on this sort of topic, I was speaking with another lady who left her job as a developer because it was just so awful, the state of the industry, that she went and kind of studied and did like a master's and doctorate and all this on why it was the way it was. So I think in order to kind of stop those 70% of people dropping out after 2 years of being in the industry, we want to heavily involve in the graduate programme. Over the last 3 years, I think we've either hit or exceeded 50% of our graduates have been female, which I think has been really, really positive, because hopefully they're the leaders of the future. So that's a really good thing, but that doesn't solve the problem of actually where are the female leaders that we really need as well now. Think about the challenges faced by minority groups. So yeah, it's just really, really little things. When we've done, so I'm co-organiser of Ladies Who Code as well, and I've kind of historically been quite involved with Manchester Girl Geeks and whatnot. And sometimes we've done events, and instead of getting pizza, we've just done something different, like sushi. I mean, it doesn't seem like that big a deal, and some people might go, oh, sushi. But going to a tech event where it's like, oh, I went to one at Sky, and that was on, well, it was just a big Sky recruitment drive, basically. But I went to Sky, and they had a pop-up cocktail bar. And like that, it's little things like that I was like, this is my cocktail. So it's just thinking about, you know, what can we do and what do we need to do? Thinking about the language that we use. I know a lot of people, and I've done it myself, a lot of people go, oh, you know, come on guys. But some people find that sort of language quite alienating. And we just need to respect the sort of nuances that working in diverse groups brings. So just something to give some thought to. Push yourself to go outside your comfort zone. I guess this relates back to the earlier point of kind of getting involved and educating and inspiring and whatnot. It might not be something that you're completely comfortable with, but actually if you can do your part to try and change the way that the technology industry looks in the future, then I'm all for that. So just bite the bullet and go for it. And yeah, try something new. We are in the situation that we're in because we continually do the same things. Let's try different things. Let's recruit in different ways. Let's introduce new policies within our organisation. Let's do our events differently. Let's be quite radical about it, because actually, without that outlook, I mean, you're not really going to change anything. So things need to change. Try something new. Do something wild. Try something different. Mix it up. And that's it. So I hope that was of some sort of use. But questions, comments, discussion, anything, please fire away. Hiya.
So, a while ago, I was working in the college as a lecturer, and we had so much difficulty recruiting women onto our engineering courses and computing courses that we set up a women's only course, which was quite sort of controversial actually at the time. But the thing is that we got more applicants, like 10 times the difference.
Really?
Yeah. So it does work, because they felt that if they'd attended one of our other courses and been outnumbered, that they wouldn't have been working.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And the thing is, at the end, we designed it so that there was an industrial placement at the end. And in the second year, all of them got an industrial placement, all the ones who wanted one. But they struggled sometimes in the placements because the same reason that they have. You know what I mean? They're going into male-dominated.
Yeah, it's almost how do you prepare people for what things are going to be like in the industry, because we are where we are and we need to all kind of work together and stuff. So I think that's quite interesting, and maybe that's something else that we need to think about tackling. And I don't know what the answer is to that. I'd like to, I'd love to, I'd do what I could to help that. But this is the thing; it can be such a shock. From speaking to a lot of my colleagues, if they've gone to their computer science degree and sort of been there, like extremely in the minority, and then maybe had a couple of their female peers drop out, they're sort of like, oh, this is really scary. So I think we can't. Whilst there is a need for women's own things, to your point, I think there's also a need for us to kind of integrate and support one another and create that culture so that women don't feel so intimidated or vulnerable when they go into a male-dominated environment.
It's got to be the industry that attracts.
Sorry.
The industry's got to attract people, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's got to attract, because like you say, with primary schools and social services,
yeah,
those are completely opposite.
Yeah.
And why don't men go into nursery schools and primary schools and social services? Why aren't they attracting men? But this industry, because it needs lots more people all the time, it just has to be excite people and want people and entice people and make the effort in all different kinds of ways.
That's what it comes down to. Making the effort.
It's not about anything else than that, really.
Yeah, it's about making the effort, but also having the culture. Like if we're talking about recruitment and attracting people, it's about having that culture where that when we bring candidates in from diverse backgrounds, that they will feel comfortable and they won't feel alienated and they won't come into horrible situations with colleagues like they might have done before.
Yeah, I agree. As an industry, we need to do a lot more. But my concern is when I see the eyes of those female kids in the code club, absolutely passionate and really enjoying the coding, something's happening between that age and when they leave school. So how much of this is kind of down to the education system? Is that broken? Is that not breaking?
Well, I think Amy's a perfect example of that, because she was like, in IT, I'm getting taught how to fill out a spreadsheet, and at home, I'm like building things with a Raspberry Pi, and it's like, So I think when she was at school, they ended up letting her put in for her IT GCSE a lot younger than the other kids, but still, I mean.
Well, one of the big tragedies has been ITC versus computing, because ITC was the soft EDC type computer driving course, and because it was much easier to get people an A in that, the computing O-level GCSE was more or less purged from public schools for the best part of 10 years. No, because you could do computer science, which was a proper hard subject, or you could teach them all how to use Word and finger paint and get them an A.
Yes, Ian, you were saying about those kids. We need to make sure they don't. If you're teaching them now, we need to make sure they don't break. So I mean, I was at a school where we learned about BBC Basics. That was my age, and all my mates didn't want to do that. It was boring typing stuff. Then we got PCs and we had to learn about Word and whatever. I was the odd one out. I was the one who was interested in them. There were no girls interested. There was one out of the class of 30 interested, and that was me. And no girls were interested. They were busy doing cooking lessons because that's what they had to do. That is what they had to do. So, fortunately, we're changing it slowly.
Sorry, just one thing to pick up on what you just said is, and I don't even know if you realise you said it, but it's about, you just said, and let's not try and break them.
Well, I couldn't think of the word.
We're delicate.
No, I meant in what you're saying about when it gets to the end of school and they don't want to do. I couldn't think of the correct word.
But that's exactly like what I'm trying to point out. It's the way we phrase things, and I do it. I go, oh, come on, guys, and I'm quite lucky. 40% of my team are female. There's only 10 of us, but 40%. I should have stuck to that.
Yeah, but I think to your point, there's something. I don't know how many people have heard young rewired state. And forgive me because I don't know the details off the top of my head, but that's something that is in school holidays time, and I can't remember, does anyone know the age group that Young Rewired State is?
School leaving group we support it.
Oh, do you? Fantastic. So that's maybe another channel. So you've got these 8 to 10-year-olds doing this, then you've got the sort of school leaver age doing that. There's enough things going on, but they all require volunteers, they all require office space, they all require support. And I think that's, my talk is called It's Up to Us, because it's up to us to do our part. If I can, I'm definitely never going to teach anyone's code because that would just be a complete disaster. But if I can get them an office space somewhere or go and, I don't know, be the role model that they need, I don't know, but we need to do it.
Part of it, from where I'm, first of all, I've got 2 daughters, one that's very interested in her Raspberry Pi and the other one that wants to be an ice skating coach.
Oh,
so, it's sort of one of them's not going to get a job in the tech industry on present sort of for. But anyway, women have been very successful in areas where they have chosen to enter. And one of those is, for example, the medical profession, which used to be a very male-dominated profession when my grandmother and great-grandmother were doctors.
Right.
But, sort of now, it's a very much more a female-led profession. And it is about that. Women choose where they're going to enter, and they choose where the benefits are best. And maybe the cost benefits analysis just doesn't work,
I'm not sure I agree. I think everyone was susceptible to influence. I think if you condition throughout your childhood.
No.
I'll give you a good example. My daughter went to high school a couple of years ago. I went to the parents sort of welcoming thing, and they paraded all the kids up on the stage to show the school uniform. I said, this is the uniform for lads, this is the uniform for girls, this is the football outfit for boys and for girls, and this is the rugby kit for boys. And I was like, well, where's the rugby kit for girls?
Well, she plays rugby as well, so, tag rugby, she's young. But
you kind of get conditioned from an early age to think that there's certain things for boys, certain things for girls.
I think it's like a flood. I think from the moment of birth, social conditioning that goes on, and then the education section, and it kind of just, and then literally right at the bottom when they kind of come out of university or whatever, that's kind of what's left, because every section of society will put a blocker or some sort of filter that prevents.
There's some really good things. There's something called the Makers Academy, which is for people who have maybe chosen to do something else, whether it's arts or sport or whatever, and then gone, actually, I really liked tech and I left it for whatever reason, but they can now go in through Makers Academy. Again, forgive me, I don't know the details off the top of my head, but that costs a ridiculous amount of money. Like, I can't remember exactly, but someone said to me, I have to pay this much a year to go to Makers Academy, and it blew me away, because I was like, that in itself is also not great for diversity, because that is only accessible to people who've got that money. And there's probably a whole lot of people that don't have that kind of money that would love that opportunity. So it's thinking about that as well.
In the run-up to the 2012 Olympics, like 10 years before that, the big sports organisations went out and found people. So Amy Williams, who won the gold in the 2012 skeleton, it's found her because of how she looked and the physiology of the girl, and thought she could be a good spokesperson.
Really?
And then they trained her at Bath and were on these, on grass things, and she won the gold. Why aren't these businesses going out and finding people? Going out into schools, going out into places, and giving them tests or whatever, or examples of things, encouraging them in. I've got 2 boys, they're not interested in tech. No, they're not interested at all. Playing games.
Yeah.
They're interested in coding.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
What surprised is it?
I think for a lot of, if we're talking about why aren't organisations going out there and finding these people, I think for a lot of people, there's a few things. I think for a lot of organisations, they aren't big enough and they don't have the people to devote the amount of time required to doing this. And let me tell you, it is a huge amount of time invested to kind of really develop your employer brand, make yourself an attractive employee to the people who you eventually want to hire. All that sort of
50
stuff.
years ago, people came off the fields in this city to go into cotton company.
Yeah.
Why don't they encourage those people?
They've starved them out.
There's a lot of poor people in this city.
It was the coal mines.
There's a lot of poor people in this city.
I think as well, a lot of companies, I mean, Thoughtworks is the same. We do a lot of our recruitment through referrals, which is amazing. I think last year it was 40% or something. That's great. But there is the kind of worry that actually you hiring in your own image when you're using, and this is a lot of the problems with some startups who don't understand that diversity needs to be baked in from day one. They go, oh, my mate who I went to uni with, Bob, and Paul, and then before you know it, you've got a team of 10, all white men, and then you're like, and no one, and a woman won't want to come and work for you. Sorry, sweeping generalisation. They might want to, but if I go in and I'm interviewed by 6 different blokes, I'm a bit like, really? I'd like to see someone like me in the process. Hello.
You don't think just looking for somebody with a brain and a bit of enthusiasm and ignoring everything else is kind of like the way to go. Because when you start defining diversity as, when you highlight the thing, like, oh, gender or whatever it is, ethnicity or that, you're just attracting stuff to these things that don't matter. Just look for somebody with a bloody brain. I mean, we're like where I work.
Attract in the pool you need to attract.
We've got 40%
with all of those people.
It does matter to me.
If 37% is good, if we're talking diversity on gender, then we've got 40% of lasses in our my development thing. Amazing. Not in the company.
Yeah.
But it's not. You highlight these differences. The
problem's interview. I do interviews. I've interviewed one woman in 3 years. She was brilliant. She got the job, not because she was a woman, but because she was brilliant. But I've only interviewed one.
I think to be fair though, I think software development is more than intelligence and enthusiasm. There's so many other characteristics that you need as an effective, person in tech. All the softer skills, communication. I think just having brains.
If you ain't got brains, you can't communicate. That brains on its own, where you just this arrogant ivory tower sort of asshole that sort of puts himself out of it ain't going to help you, is it? Because you can't talk to the person that needs to describe how software works, so you can't talk to the business person. You've got to adapt. Okay, I'm being particularly obnoxious at this point in time. I appreciate that. You've got to adapt. But that's part of intelligence. That's what you're looking for, somebody who understands. You don't challenge people. You look at the person.
But that only works if everyone's doing that, because there's people are gender biased, and sometimes they don't know it. Yeah, we all are, but there's a lot of gender bias. If you're a woman being interviewed by a man who's got this preconception that you're just going to go off and have a baby in a couple of years, or you're not going to be able to kind of cut it with the lads, then that's going to inform the way that interview goes from the interviewer's side. So I'm not saying that you're wrong. I think you're right. I think if everyone genuinely approached every interview as a, can this person do the job, that'd be fantastic. That's what we're asking for. That's exactly what we're asking for.
Statistics, and that doesn't apply. You've got to look at the statistics. It's disgraceful. Diversity statistics are
Everyone.
The thing is though, that there's more that you can do right at the early stages of the recruitment process. So you can put your job advert out that says we encourage people to apply if they want to do job share or part-time. Yeah. You can do stuff like you can prime your interview panel to be aware of, if they're not used to female candidates, they can be aware of things like tilting your head and saying just and kind of less confident language doesn't mean you're not confident, it's just a typical woman thing. You can do stuff like, I can't think of any other examples right now, but
you can put those adverts in places, say online, where women coders congregate. They might not congregate in the same places male coders congregate.
Yeah, there's stuff that you can do in, like you were saying, if you're in an interview panel and you've got a very kind of male panel there using very male language, they might have that unconscious bias that they don't know that they've got. So you can train people on that, for example, not having an unconscious bias or being aware of it. So there are things you can do as an organisation in your recruitment process to make it more favourable before you put the advert out.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it would be interesting to see what happens if we just let everyone get on with it and hire for brains. I would love to just do that and then go, right, let's just measure where we're all at and let's have a look around the room. Because I bet you it wouldn't be pretty. And it's something that we just need to be aware of.
You'll look stat on when a woman looks at an application, she wants all of it, and a man apparently looks at that with 40% of that and having it back.
Yeah, and generally speaking, I mean, that happens. So when you see that you're not interviewing many female candidates because they just aren't applying, it's not because they're not there. There are loads. Like, I am involved in the communities where these people go, but for some reason, either it's your employer brand, they just don't want to work for you, your job advert is alienating them in some way, shape or form, and that's a huge pool of untapped potential that you're not even, it's not on your radar.
Is there some sort of info about that without telling me that?
There is.
I don't know, so is that something to share around afterwards?
For sure, yeah. I'll send a load of links to you and then you can see it. Yeah.
It's in on a bit of a minority path, but the under 25 market, especially with women. And I found that being 25, I'm one of the youngest and most user groups I go to. I go to a lot.
Really? Wow.
And there's not normally any females there. This is probably one of the ones I've got the most women I've been to this year. And
PHP one's quite good.
Well, I've been before already.
Is it a bit of a brain drain to London?
I think one of the key problems with it in all of these days is the fact that there's no real drive to get women in at a young age. If you're in IT, you're probably in your 30s. Sorry to say it, but that's what I see.
Just got time for one question over here.
Oh, can we have two? We've got time to.
We've got a lot of people getting different organisations, and everybody, I think, as soon as you start talking about diversity, everyone's got different. But I think it'd be a really good opportunity for everybody kind of like sharing experience, because I've worked in companies and I see like the BBC at the moment, and overall our statistics aren't great. But we had 50% female candidate
Awesome.
on the graduate scheme this year.
Great.
And we think that was because of a group event we did, so quite a few would been to that. So that's a good thing. But other things, we're not doing something great, we're doing something cool, but that's the thing that work. So when people, get together and start sharing things, what you said also, there's lots of companies who don't have the resources to figure out how to we all work together.
Yeah. I think that would be awesome. Yeah, that would be really good. Ian, do you want to take an action? Another one. Last question.
Yeah, so it was interesting what you said about Makers Academy, because I graduated from Makers Academy.
Oh, right.
Yeah, funnily enough, I wrote a blog post today that I tweeted out about kind of how we started on what we were trying to do up here, which is start a similar kind of code academy. What's really interesting was another thing that you said, because we're based in the Sharp project up the road in kind of Oldham, and it's a really, really deprived area. And when we first started, we were messing around with kind of what our business model could be. we really wanted to sort of take away that kind of burden of cost from the students and put it much more on the people who are hiring.
Yeah.
Now, funnily enough, we've kind of pulled back from that at the moment, although we haven't kind of announced, what exactly we're going to do. And part of the problem is we just don't think companies are willing or understand just how important the problem is and how critical it is that they bring people on board, and the cost actually to their businesses of not investing in these skills right now. But the other thing that we've been sort of trying to look at is basically saying, money shouldn't be an object. And what we're trying to find is a finance company who's willing to lend to somebody based on the prospect of their future income. Now that happens a lot already. It happens for funding universities, but we're unproven. And so what we're going to try and do is basically say, look, we will guarantee that we'll get you into work, and if we don't, we'll give you this tuition fee. So the company lending has no risk effectively.
Yeah.
If we don't deliver on our promise, then they don't have to lend any money because the person doesn't have the job.
Yeah.
And if they get into work, then they can. And that's, I think, those are the kinds of things I think everybody should be trying to think about, is how you sort these problems out practically.
So if anyone knows a finance company for this gentleman, please give him a shout. And also, hopefully, you can think about all this important diversity stuff and actually how you're going to make sure that the students that do go on to your course or your school or whatever it might be are representative of the community. I think that's really important. But I'm conscious of time. And I just wanted to say thank you for the conversation. It's always good to.
Right, guys. So, Phil, how long have we? What time do you want us out by?
No, whenever. There's no finite point. So just whenever. When the beer's finished.
Yeah.
Challenge.
Yeah. So, thanks everyone. Now, what we'll do is plenty of time now for networking. I'm sure there's loads. I've got so many questions and conflicts in my own head that have come out of this talk. So there's plenty of time for networking. Grab yourself a beer from either bar. We've got 2 bars.
Competing bars.
Yeah. And yeah.
No cocktails though. Amy. Sorry about that.
Well, I'm going back to
Next time. Cheers.
Making